Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. Today I'm going to be making my whipped shortbread cookies. This is a church cookbook from the church I used to attend in Ontario a number of years ago. I have some recipes in here as well that I submitted, and this is a standby. This is one that I use. I've also made the snickerdoodle recipe above, although I haven't made them in years, and there's also a peanut butter cookie recipe in here that I also use. The lady who this recipe is from, again, you can see the snickerdoodle recipes from her, and I believe she's the one that also put the peanut butter cookie recipe in here, and they have become family favorites, even though the snickerdoodles I have not made in a long time, but the shortbread cookies are family favorite. So what I need, as you can see, is going to be 2 sticks of butter, a tablespoon of brown sugar, and a half cup of icing sugar, or also known as confectioner's sugar, and then 1 1/2 cups of flour. And because it's whipped shortbread cookies, basically you have to beat it with a mixer not more than 6 minutes. So usually I use my stand mixer, and I usually do them for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then I pause it and scrape everything off the sides and resume for another 2 or 3 minutes. So I give them a good solid 6 minutes, and then I put a half or a quarter of a maraschino cherry in the center of each cookie before baking. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to get my oven preheated, and I'll set you up on my tripod and show you how it's done, show you what I do. Alrighty, so I've already put the butter into the mixing bowl. You probably can't see it because of the angle the camera is on, but the 2 sticks of butter in there. I don't think I have enough maraschino cherries to do 2 batches right now. I wish I did, but I don't think I quite do. I think at 325 I'm going to set the oven temperature. Would have liked to have done a double batch, but I think but when it comes to shortbread cookies, I only do a single batch at a time. Even if a lot of other recipes I'll do a double batch, I only do 1 batch at a time of shortbread. I just don't try and double it up. I just feel like I shouldn't mess with it. So I've done 1 cup of butter. She said you're supposed to cream the butter, so I'm going to start with that. And I have to get everything else measured out. It's hard to just cream the butter because it wants to just stick to the beater on this. Once you get the sugar and stuff in there, it tends to be a little better, but it just wants to stick right to the beater. See if I can take a spoon and push it back in the bowl. I don't want to do this because it ends up sticking to the spoon. I'm not getting as much butter in the bowl, but it is saying to cream it, but I do find it wants to stick to the beater when I initially do that. Come on, another piece sticking to the beater again. Okay, now it's not perfectly creamed because it does want to stick, but that's fine. I'll just put it back in there. Once it gets the sugar in there with it, then it'll be more likely to blend. Okay, so some on the spoon here, get that off. My spoon rest over here. Okay, so I need a tablespoon of brown sugar. I do have dark brown sugar in the cupboard as well. Right now I'm just using the golden yellow sugar. I've used both in there and it's fine. So whether you use the dark brown or the light brown or golden yellow as I'm using here, I still consider this to be brown sugar too. When it's a recipe calls for brown sugar, I quite often just have the light stuff. And I think that should be fine. I mean, I've done both. I'm not even sure if I have the dark brown sugar bag open or not. I probably do. But it's too late now. I've already put that in there, so either will be fine. I've used both over the years. And then 1 1/2 cups. Oh no, pardon me. 1/2 cup of icing sugar, and then 1 1/2 cups of flour. So 1/2 cup of icing sugar. Or, as some people would call it, confectioner's sugar. I'm not sure if that's a US thing to call it confectioner's sugar or what, but here at least it is just known as icing sugar. Whereas in regular like cookie recipes, usually you'll see brown sugar and what is just known as granulated sugar. I've seen, when I see in recipes that's calling for confectioner's sugar, I know that means icing sugar. So that, get that in there, and then I'm going to have to add sugar, blend well, and then I will start measuring out my flour, which is 1.5 cups. I've already been chopping up my maraschino cherries way down here. Flour is across the room. In a bag on the floor. It's a 10-kilogram bag, so I'm not going to drag it around all over the place. I've got a half-cup measuring cup on the go right now, so that's what I'm using at the moment. My spoon now. Right now I'm just going to get this butter and sugar mixed in together. There's a little bit of icing sugar sitting on the bottom of the bowl that is not mixed in yet. So I'm going to up my speed and try and pick that up. I have to get my spatula out probably. I can probably do a better job than this spoon, but right here, right now, I'm just trying to get it, trying to get that in there. Make sure that sugar all gets blended in. Tiny bit of brown sugar on the bottom, it's also not blended in, but okay, there, I'm getting most of it now. Still a little bit down there, let's see it. Just needs to get in there. It's just something about that, how that bowl just kind of comes to that little, not really a point, but a little peak, because there's kind of that little hump in the middle of the bowl down there. So I'm just trying to make sure that it all gets picked up. And it'll be the same thing with the flour too. So, okay, so put the first half cup in. And my spoon rest, I'll get my second half cup and then I'll start mixing it while I measure my third half cup. I'm going to start mixing this on low because if I do it any higher, it'll be like a puff of cloud of flour that comes flying around the bowl. We don't need that. And that is basically it for ingredients. Cup of butter, tablespoon of brown sugar, half a cup of icing or confectioner's sugar, and 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Okay, so now it is mixing. Let's see how we're doing here. It's supposed to whip for no more than 6 minutes, so I'm going to start it. I'm going to find my spatula. Get ready to start scraping this off the sides a little bit already, just to get it going. And then I'm going to let it go for 2 or 3 minutes. And then at that point, I will make sure there's nothing sticking to the sides again and let it go for another couple minutes. So, all right, I'm going to set my microwave timer actually so that I don't lose track of time. Like that. All right. This is very much a family favorite recipe. I don't know about you guys, but certainly I have read cookbooks that I like that have, I mean, you can find all kinds of recipes on the internet out there. To me, I like ones that are tried and true recipes. So the fact that this is a church cookbook and these are recipes that are presumably all put in here by people who have made these recipes over the years, that's what I like. Because I know that means people have used them and like them. It's not just that somebody Googled something and they're trying something they found. So, and this has become a family favorite recipe of ours. We have used this for years. I think I'm listed in this cookbook under my former name from my first marriage. So that tells me how long ago we did this cookbook, because I haven't lived in the city that this church is, I haven't lived there now since 2003. We moved away when my daughter was just 3 years old, and I was still married to my husband at that point. So somewhere between 2000 and 2003, well, anywhere between 97 and 2003, because those are the 6 years that I lived there, we did this cookbook. So that's how long ago this was. So I've been making this recipe for more than 15 years, basically. Even if you want to say that I didn't start making this recipe until like 2005, 2006, I've been making this recipe for 15 years. So probably longer, because it would have been, this cookbook, they might even have a year in there somewhere, but it basically was made in 2002, 2003. So I've been doing this recipe for 20 years, basically. And it's definitely a family favorite. The only thing I would say is an issue is that back in the day, you used to be able to find green maraschino cherries in stores too, not just red. I can't find green anymore, no matter where we go. All there are seem to be red these days. So, which is fine. I mean, that's what I make do with. But I liked the idea of having both red and green just for some variety. And plus, red and green are both Christmas colors. So I always like being able to use both. Okay, we're at 1 minute left in this first 3 minutes. And at that point, I'm going to scrape this sides down. I don't know if I'll put it on for another full 3 minutes or not, or maybe just 2.5. But this is basically what you have to do. Like, it has to be at a decent speed. It says for no more than 6 minutes, but I try and put it on for pretty close to the whole time. And then you put them in by teaspoonful on cookie sheet. I do put the quarter or piece of a cherry in the center. And then they bake at 325, not your standard 350 that you bake most cookies at, 325 for 20 minutes. 20 minutes per pan. And I mean, I never have to, just like with my ginger snaps, I had to tweak the temperature, and I think they started out, like, the recipe for my ginger snaps say 375, but actually I find they scorch when they do that, so I can turn it down closer to 350. In this, I never have to tweak the temperature. 325 is fine. The 20 minutes is usually exactly fine. I never have to worry about changing the time or the temperature in this recipe. Okay, so there's my timer. Right. What's in here? I'm having trouble turning it down. There it goes. I was having trouble getting it out of gear. It didn't seem to want to turn off on me. I thought I was going to have to pause the video and unplug the mixer. It's like, wait a minute. It was getting stuck in a higher, but then I turned it up a smidge and I was able to turn it down. Stand mixer better not fail me now. I do have an electric mixer that is not a stand mixer I can use if I need to. That thing, though, you want to talk about old. I'm talking about how old this recipe is in this cookbook. That not stand mixer, but the electric, and I wouldn't say hand mixer either, but just the standard electric mixer that has the beaters that you use. I got that as a housewarming gift back in 1990, so it's 31 years old and it's still kicking. So if I need to, for any Christmas baking, if for some reason this thing were to suddenly give up the ghost, I do have that, but that's even older, because this thing is only 10 years old, maybe 5. Better not die on me now. This is middle of Christmas baking. I'm thinking my oven is still preheating. I haven't heard it go off yet. Okay, let me just make sure there's nothing in that point in the bottom of the bowl that needs to be scooped up. I think it's all picked up. Good. Make sure this is all off the sides. All right, let's do this again. Maybe I'll do just 2.5 minutes for this one. There goes my oven. That tells me it's preheated. Perfect time. Now, oh, where's my patience? I think I'm going to do this one. Yep, they are. Okay, I think I'm going to just adjust this, and then rather than try and move this, I'll just see if I can resume you to closer to where I am with the cookie sheets here. 15 seconds left. So it is currently Tuesday, December 14th, which means it is only 10 days until Christmas Eve. It is coming quickly. Christmas is almost upon us. Ready or not. I am not completely ready. I am almost done shopping. Almost. Almost done mailing. I do have a package I'd like to mail. And a few more cards that have to get mailed. And some more baking. I'd like to do my peanut butter cookies too. And then closer to Christmas Eve, closer to actual Christmas Eve, I'll make my mini cheesecakes. And then I'm probably going to do pie crusts as well and make pumpkin pie on Christmas Day. I have a Saskatoon pie in the freezer. I could probably pull out and bake. But my pie crust recipe makes 6 pie crusts, which is 3 double crust pies. So if I'm doing on Christmas Day, making a batch of pies on Christmas Day, I might as well just make fresh pies that day. It is down to less than 10 seconds. Okay. Perfect timing. All right. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to have enough cherries to do a second batch without having to go to the store, and I really don't want to do that right now. First of all, because I just want to get in baking mode and just do it and not stop. And second of all, because if I go in the grocery store, that's where I work. They might be liable to put me to work if I go in there. So don't want that. Not today, folks. I'm enjoying having 5 days off from the store. I'm still busy, plenty busy with housework and other stuff. And Christmas prep, like that. I have to start doing my wrapping. And because I still have tomorrow off from the store, but I work at the school tomorrow just like I did today. And I've got a lot to do because I work Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week at the store. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at the school. Sunday is just church, but then I am Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at the store next week, and Monday, Tuesday at the school. So that's going to be heavy. And then Friday's Christmas Eve, and I will be at the church from basically 3 o'clock on Christmas Eve. And then after the service, we are invited out to friends for an hour or so. And then we go to the fire hall to do my delivery of my baskets of goodies. I'm probably just going to do 2 fire halls and not 3. I know I did 3 in the summer, but I'm probably just going to do 2 this time. I'll see. I have 3 baskets, but I just don't know. A lot depends on how much baking I finish up, because I'm not going to have a lot of time. This is it. And then once I do my peanut butter cookies, there's that. And I don't have a lot of time to do a lot else. Okay, let me see if I can zoom you in on the cookie sheets here, because that's where I'll be working. Trying to adjust you a little bit. Okay. Rather than try and move you down to another area on the counter, I will just take this down here so you can see. I find obviously the bigger cookie you make, the less cookies you get, number of cookies you get in a batch. But I also don't want to make them tiny either. So basically I'm just rolling them and then in my hand and then just squeezing a little cherry into the middle of each one. If I can get, I think I get usually about 2.5 cookies per batch out of it. 2.5 dozen cookies. Oh my goodness. Tripping over my words. Usually about 2.5 dozen cookies per batch. So I would like to have gotten 2 batches out of this just so that I can say that I've made 5 dozen cookies, and that way I know that I'm done making shortbread altogether. If I don't have enough cherries, then that means I gotta make another batch of shortbread at some point on a different day. And I really just wanted to knock a double batch out and just be done with it. Because then tomorrow I can work on my peanut butter cookies and basically call it even. Like, I'd still like to make my banana eggnog bread, but that's not hard. Because I find with cookies, your cookies take a little bit more effort in that you're having to roll them out individually. Whereas, you know, a loaf, you can mix everything up and then you just pour it in the little pan and into the oven it goes, for the most part. Whereas cookies, you're having to roll each one out, and yeah, it takes a little more. And the peanut butter cookies too, like you have to roll them all out, but then you also have to like do the press down with the fork, which it really isn't much effort, don't get me wrong, but it's just another step. Whereas if you're doing like a brownie, mix it all up on the saucepan grease your pan, pour it in the pan, put it in the oven. And then the icing doesn't take much to make. A loaf of some sort, even my gumdrop loaf, I think that I can get away with using whole gumdrops as opposed to cutting them in half. I don't think I need to cut them. So there's that. Banana eggnog loaf. Yeah, there's a little bit of effort in that. You gotta crush the bananas, but in this case I have frozen bananas, so when I thaw those out, those will just peel. Those will just pour in almost like liquid kind of thing. So there's very minimal effort there. Whereas with this, you can see like each cookie has to be rolled out by hand, and then a piece of cherry in the center of each one. So it takes a little effort. So I'd much rather do a double batch if I can, and just knock that out and then say, okay, I'm done making shortbread. Or if I do make any extra shortbread next week, then it's just for fun. But at least I know that I will have made what I need. So we'll see. I have a feeling what I might do, I have a load of laundry to fold, the eternal never-ending struggle of laundry, and another load to go in the wash. And then what I might do is put on some TV downstairs. So I have, like, my PVR is like 95% full. I gotta start watching some stuff. Very backlogged. So what I might do is set up downstairs, fold some laundry, and start wrapping presents. And then maybe if I actually succeed, well, no, I wouldn't succeed in having that package ready to mail yet tonight because I do have some other things I have to buy to put in there. But I was going to say, if I had that package ready to mail, I could run to the post office, which is in a drugstore in the same strip mall as my work, and go mail it and then get some more cherries and do the other batch of cookies later tonight, the other batch of shortbread. But I don't have everything I need for that package, so that's not going to work. But what I could do is I could wrap some presents, and then I could go over to Rexall, the drugstore, get the items I need for that package, and pop into my work and grab some cherries, provided they're not out and I don't have to go to 6 different grocery stores, and then come home and make the other batch of shortbread. And then that way tomorrow I can make my peanut butter cookies, and then at least I know all of my cookies that because the other ones I made, like the peppermint kiss cookies, if I make more of those, great. If I make more latte cookies, great. If I make more Mrs. Ashton cookies, great. But those I did make. I don't think the peppermint kiss cookies, I don't think I made a double batch, but the batch made like 4 or 5 dozen. But all the other ones, like I either made a double batch or they made large enough batches that instead of getting 2.5 to 3 dozen, I got like 5 dozen out of them. So they're good to go. It's I have enough of those. And again, if I make any more of them, then I'm making more because I want to, not because I'm running low. But I know that I only have like a half a dozen shortbread cookies left in my freezer downstairs, so I need to make more. But those ones I'm stocked up on enough to this point that it's not a need to have to make more right now. This one I might just cut in half. Unless I make these cherry pieces small enough that I can make them stretch, because they don't have to be huge. Okay, there's my first pan. Don't know how much you can see because I have zoomed you in. That is my first pan ready to go in the oven. Don't want to bring it too close because yes, I have zoomed you in. I'm going to put this in the oven 20 minutes. And you know, like I said, I never have to fiddle at all with the temperature or the time. 20 minutes at 325 is completely right. So I'm going to set my microwave timer. Start on pan number 2, and then once I've rolled out pan number 2, then I will pause you and just show you what they look like when they're done. And by then I'll have been able to count my last cherry pieces and see if I can make what I have stretch or not. I might be able to. If I cut them into little enough pieces, I might be able to get by, because the cherry pieces don't have to be don't have to be huge. In fact, they're not even mentioned in the recipe. The cherry pieces are in there, basically my idea, because it's a dollop of color, right? Because otherwise you're just making these with nothing in the center, and it's like, well, it seems to me they need something. I have never done shortbread cookies that you have to roll out on the counter. I've never really done a lot of cookies that you have to roll out, period, because I'm not a fan of trying to get stuff up off the counter without it ripping. That was also one of my issues with pie crust for years. When my daughter was little, I used to make a sugar cookie recipe, and that one I would do, especially at Easter time, and I would use cookie cutters, and I didn't do too terribly bad at getting them up off the counter. But so I don't know why I ever stopped at that. But I think I also struggle with when I'm doing a cookie that you have to like paint or decorate. I don't really know a good recipe for like an icing that is like a paint that you can kind of put on a shortbread cookie or sugar cookie that you roll out and ice them with. Like I don't do well with cookies that I have to like decorate and paint them like with a nice, like cookies that you have to ice after and make them look pretty. So if anybody watching this does do cookies like that, where you kind of paint them with like an icing and you cover the whole surface with like a pretty pink or green or red or whatever icing and they look really nice, please let me know what kind of recipe you use, because I don't know. And I think it's a big part of, aside from the idea of having them be stuck on the counter when you roll them out, aside from that, that's one of my biggest issues with cookies like that, because to me, if I use a Santa Claus cookie cutter on a sugar cookie and I roll it out, yeah, it might be the shape of Santa's face, but then once they bake, like all the creases in the cookie kind of go away when they bake. So to me, like, I guess the next logical step would be to take an icing and decorate it so that you can tell that it's Santa's face. But I don't know what to use for an icing to do that. I'm not so good at the decorating part. So if you are one of those that's good at that, maybe tell me what you use or what kind of recipe you use for that, because I do not know, and I've avoided using or doing a recipe like that for years because I don't know what I'm doing. And again, I'm not one to just necessarily Google it. I mean, I could, but typically I like the tried and true stuff. I like to know that this is what you use and it never fails, or almost never fails, or whatever, but you know what I mean. I like the idea of knowing that this is something that, this is what I do, because then I know that, okay, this is a recommendation from somebody. So if you do decorate cookies and you paint them with some kind of like glaze or whatever and it looks really pretty, what do you use? Because I do not have a hot clue. See, I'm gonna get about, I think 2.5 dozen out of this batch, which is good because then I'm getting a decent amount of cookies out of the batch, but then that's bad because that means that I'll have less cherries left over. Oh my goodness, that is like the world's smallest piece of cherry I just put in there. That is sad. All because I'm skimping and trying to save the cherries. I should not have cut that one that small. But this cookie in general is not as big. Maybe if I flatten it down around the cherry will stick out more and it will be not so sad looking. My logic probably doesn't make sense to most of you. Doesn't even make sense to me half the time. But nonetheless, regardless, these cookies are a family favorite. They're a hit. And the big issue is going to be keeping my family out of them. Because if I make a second batch, then I'm good to go. But if I don't, I need some of these for the fire hole delivery Christmas Eve. And they are not going to last till Christmas Eve. Not unless I find a new hiding spot for them. So, and that's fine. Like, my family's supposed to be able to eat these. That's okay, but I need some left for that delivery. I would send my spouse to the store to get cherries, but he is napping. I could make my daughter pounce on him and wake him up, but I don't think that would go over well. Speaking of, let me go see where the bird is. My bird is out. Where is she? Oh, she's sitting. Wow. I'm completely shocked. My African gray parrot loves to be in the kitchen, and she's out of the cage. She's with my daughter in the living room, and they don't get along. My daughter likes her, but the bird doesn't like my daughter for some reason. And she's just sitting there on the coffee table, quietly minding her own business. Usually if there's activity in the kitchen and the bird really likes me, I would have thought by now she'd be in here, getting into trouble. I almost forgot that she's out of her cage until I started talking about my spouse and my daughter, and I'm like, wait a minute, the bird's out there. So I'm thankful that Ruby's not in here, because as cute as she might be on camera, I can't have her on the counter because she'd be eating cords to the mixer and generally getting in the way and taking over the video. And we don't need that. So, okay, I've got 2 pans ready to go. Those 2 are small cookies, but that's okay. So I'm going to pause this here because we're almost at a half an hour already. So I'm going to pause this right here. And then I will come back in a little bit to show you what everything looks like once it's all said and done. Pardon my cutting board. Yes, that's the word. Pardon the looks of my cutting board over there. It looks like a crime scene is happening over there. It really isn't. It's just maraschino cherry juice. Anyway, I'll be back in a bit to show you how they turned out. Okay, so I am back, and I actually did manage to cut up the cherries small enough to get a second batch out. So I have a total of 70 cookies here, which is just shy of 6 dozen. 6 dozen would obviously be 72. I managed to get 2 batches. So yeah, I got 70 shortbread cookies, so just shy of 6 dozen. Somehow 70 cookies doesn't seem like a lot given that I have to take some on deliveries and stuff to people. But, I mean, it's almost 6 dozen, so that is quite a bit. Mind you, the first 5 or 5.5 or 6 dozen are pretty much done for from earlier this month. So, man, I just hope I can... I mean, I don't mind if the family eats some, but I hope I can keep enough back that I have enough for the gifts and deliveries I want to do. Because I don't know when I'm going to get more time to make more. I do still want to make some peanut butter cookies yet, and I do still want to do maybe some type of a cookie that I use like the red and green Christmas M&Ms in. I have to search online, I guess, for a recipe for that one because I don't have a tried and true or a regular recipe for that, unless I just take a regular chocolate chip cookie recipe and put the red and green M&Ms in there instead. I don't know. But if you who are watching have done a Christmas cookie with red and green M&Ms in it and you'd care to share your recipe with me, please post it in the comments down below and I'll give it a try because I'm all about the tried and true recipes. Anyway, this is how I make my whipped shortbread cookies. It is a family favorite. Like I said, it came from a church cookbook in Ontario from probably almost 20 years ago now, I guess. I was a part of collaborating on that cookbook. And I've been using it ever since my daughter was little, and it's her absolute favorite thing I make at Christmas. She can make it too, but usually she just likes it when Mom makes it, so I usually do it. And yeah, it's a family favorite, and a few people I've shared the cookies with love them, and I have shared the recipe with a few people too at their request because, you know, once they've tried one of these cookies, they have to make them themselves. They just have to have the recipe kind of thing. So I hope you enjoyed this as well. And if you would like to try and make these as well, again, it's a very simple recipe. It's basically a cup of butter or 2 sticks of salted butter, half a cup of icing sugar, which is also known as confectioner's sugar, a tablespoon of brown sugar, and a cup and a half of all-purpose flour. Whip it all together for about 6 minutes and bake it at 20 minutes at 325 Fahrenheit. And that's it. That is the recipe. So if you try it, let me know how it turns out. And I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, of course, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you are new, and give this video a thumbs up. And we will see you next time. Have a great night, everyone. Or a great day, depending on when you're watching this.